Hello, great people. Not many knew that Vice President Kashim Shettima escaped a tragedy that could have perhaps cost him his life in New York. Precisely, it was about his plane. According to the presidency, a foreign object came and just hit the windscreen of his plane at JFK Airport. In this video, I'll be telling you the international politics behind it, the dynamics of it, the shortcoming of Kashim Shettima, the response of the presidency, and the lapses in the responses and actions of the presidency and precisely President Bola Tinubu himself. So let us dive into this issue. First, it is not everything that the media usually do justice to. Nigerian medias are trying, kudos to them. They are doing a good work under a very difficult circumstance. But the truth is, it's not every topic that they do justice to. And that's why I'm here for you. And I believe that you are here for me to spend this little time with me for us to kind of like know these issues, right? So let's get something right first. Vice President Kashim Shettima left the country for an international engagement to represent Nigeria. Underline, to represent Nigeria. He wasn't going on a private visit. So he went with the presidential fleet to represent Nigeria. So if something happens along the way and you decide to turn back because the vice president, when that incident happened, according to the statement of Bayo Onanuga, that he was advised to abort the trip. So let's us look at how some of our public officials, how they take the work of Nigeria seriously. Because remember that the word in that national anthem, arise, O compatriots, Nigeria call, obey. So the leaders, when Nigeria calls, do they obey? In the sense that you have left the shores of Nigeria, you are going for an engagement in Samoa, which will involve the King of England, King Charles, and over 50 head of state of different countries. I think countries that have affiliation with the Commonwealth. So you are going there. That means that for you to have left the shores of Nigeria, to have, pack your bag, go with your aides, start the presidential fleet and decide to go out of Nigeria, that means that event is quite important. US is closer to Samoa than Nigeria to Samoa. You have left the shores of the country. You are already in US, JFK Airport, to be precise. Now, when you are at the airport and an event happened with your presidential fleet, imagine not you yourself. If something had happened to you as a person, you would have said, okay, maybe it's an health issue, maybe this is something beyond your powers and you need to kind of like abort the trip so that you don't go there to embarrass yourself. That's understandable. That's fine. But the presidential fleet, a strange object, which I'm still coming to the analysis of that, a strange object. You wonder that at the JFK Airport, where did the strange object come from? But then I'm still coming to the dynamics of that. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. So you want to ask yourself that the vice president, why will you now abort the trip and say that you are coming back to Nigeria when you are already halfway? In fact, you are more closer to Samoa than Nigeria. Now, let us put it in practical terms before you judge this issue. If Kashim Shettima is not the vice president of Nigeria, if he is a private citizen like maybe Dangote or Tedola, Tony Olumelu, that is an industrialist and is doing well for himself. Imagine that he's going to Samoa. Let's say he's going to Samoa for a business deal with the president of Samoa as a private individual. He's going to Samoa for a business deal. And when he got to maybe JFK Airport or something happened along the line, his flight has an issue. And he has been booked for a private session that he has been lobbying for maybe for the past 6 months with the president of that country. If his private jet has an issue, let's be sincere with ourselves. Will he turn back? Is Shettima going to turn back? Just imagine it, that contract that you've been dreaming of, that connection that you've been dreaming of, the attention of the president of a country that you've been yearning for, haven't kind of like done your mass environmental assessment and everything to know that if they allow you to operate in that country, it's a massive hit. For instance, when MTN was to establish in Nigeria during the time of Olusegun Obasanjo, imagine the process it will take them to kind of like be able to schedule an appointment with the president, then President Obasanjo. And imagine Obasanjo giving them an appointment, and maybe halfway, their plane or private jet or chartered helicopter or anything now has an issue. Will they turn back? Of course, they won't turn back. So you wonder that, Shettima, why would you turn back in the middle of it? That it is not so right. For instance, that's where we miss Osinbajo. And there's one thing about Shettima, right? Shettima is trying his own capacity. Nobody is perfect, and it is not an easy thing to be the number 2 citizen of a country like Nigeria. It's not easy, right? Kudos to him in his capacity. But then, that's where you miss Osinbajo. And I'll give you 2 instances. The house that they were building for Shettima, the 21 billion house, Osinbajo was vice president for 8 years, right? The construction started during his tenure. He didn't rush them. He didn't even enjoy the house. Despite the fact that he knows that they are in their second term and is going to leave office, he managed. So why can't Shettima emulate Osinbajo to manage? Second thing is that Shettima is presidential fleet had an issue. You remember during when Osinbajo and Buhari were campaigning for the second term election, Osinbajo was going to, I think, Kogi State. His helicopter had an accident, and people were scared. When Osinbajo came out of that accident and he saw that he can still manage, he proceeded with his official engagement. Arise, O compatriot, Nigeria call, obey. So if anything happens to your flight and you turn back, one would imagine that what example are you setting for the likes of Wike, Bagudu, the ministers, the permanent secretaries, the head of parastatals? Don't forget that Osinbajo crash landed. So he has enough excuse that, oh, he was in the helicopter that almost crashed at that point in time. But when he came out, he proceeded with that engagement. Imagine if it is Shettima, the plane did not have any issue of crash landing, he has aborted the trip. Now let us look at another thing. Can't Shettima proceed on commercial flight to Samoa? The plane that will bring him back to Nigeria, whether it is another presidential fleet that was sent, or maybe he booked a commercial flight to Nigeria back, why can't you use that medium of transportation? If it's a commercial flight, why can't you book a flight to Samoa to represent Nigeria, the interest of the country? Why? Now, let us look at the international dynamics of this thing. Nigeria has no major enemy to warrant killing of the VP on foreign soil. Because if you look at the international politics and dynamic, you can't rule out the likely assassination attempt of some leaders or key important personalities in some countries. If you look at the history books, there are a plethora of examples as regards that. But we now have to look at it that Nigeria has no major enemy. In fact, if you look at Nigeria in the history books, Nigeria don't usually have a problem with anybody. Nigeria is good at being friends with everybody. For instance, let me ask you, which country can you say that Nigeria have had problems with, major problems with, or Nigeria has gone to war with? Nigeria only has history of supporting other countries, Liberia during the war, South Africa during apartheid. But Nigeria itself usually operates in such a way that it doesn't usually have enemies. For instance, Niger, when the coup in Niger, when it happened, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria was, rearing its head against the military junta in Niger. You see that after a while, since those countries have the backing of Russia, what did Nigeria do? Nigeria easily retrace its step and say, "Whoa, now again our own wahala. Men na they do nothing. Men na just they do nothing." You understand? So Nigeria has been a country that operates very, very carefully in the international stage. And even if, let's say, oh, Russia now wants to kind of like eat Nigeria hard. If Nigeria had gone to war with Niger, if Nigeria had invaded Niger under the guise of ECOWAS, with the president being the chairman of ECOWAS presently. Now, Russia couldn't have done that on the US soil. We are talking international politics and dynamics. That couldn't have been possible on the US soil. So this strange object, and you imagine an airport strange object, is it that some of you that travels will know how the airport setting is? Is it that the strange object was just coming and just eat? You know, it's a bit mysterious, and sometimes the presidency, for reason best known to them, they like to give what I call half information. But the truth is, if anything is going to happen to Nigeria, it can be on a foreign soil in a country like the United States. And to now think that Nigeria does not have any major international enemies like that, even when it comes to voting at the UN or at other places, instead of Nigeria to have enemies, what will Nigeria do? Nigeria will abstain from voting. For instance, if they want to vote and a vote is against Russia or Ukraine based on the ongoing war, if Nigeria say if you vote for Russia, it will attract consequences from the Western allies, US, UK, Germany, France, and all that. And if they vote for Ukraine, Russia will be looking at them that, it be like saying, I want they misbehave. What will Nigeria usually do? Nigeria usually abstain from voting. So, and Nigeria doesn't have problem with anybody, because why? Nigeria usually go everywhere with begging bowl. You know how we roll. Anywhere Nigeria here, there's free money. If you want Nigeria to kind of like do you want the eyes of Nigerian leaders to be on you, just be giving free money. When World Bank is busy distributing all these soft loans, aid, you see Nigeria at the forefront. When China was busy disbursing, projects, infrastructure, aid, loans, grants to Africa, you don't see Nigeria for forefront. Nigeria was at the forefront. So Nigeria is a country that doesn't have problem majorly in the international scene. But then something comes to mind as a Nigerian. You know, say we sabi ourselves. We sabi ourselves. You understand? I hope this is not a strategy to buy new jets. I hope this is not a strategy. You know that they said, oh, President Bola Tinubu, one of his trip was affected. So, and the presidential jet at that time had one minor issue. The jet of the president of the US is allegedly older than that of Nigeria. So why can't it be fixed, right? But because of that, they say, oh, they need a new jet for Bola. Now, based on that, President Bola Tinubu has a new jet now. I hope this one is not a strategy to go and buy another new jet, because some of these guys, they really can't be trusted, though. That is the truth. I hope it's not a new... I hope it's not a strategy. Before we know it now, you hear that, that plane, the cockpit windscreen, on cockpit windscreen break, that it cannot be fixed. We just be hearing the different story. It's a lie, it can be fixed. Get another cockpit screen, contact the manufacturer. We don't want to hear that you guys want to go and buy another jet or something, But then, let us look at it. If the vice president has flew on that jet and maybe during the, it's called windscreen, right? If there's a major crack, I don't know the extent of the damage. But then if air is able to enter into the plane, now wahala be that too. But then I believe that something happened to the plane, not you. It's not a reason for you to turn back. That time that you are using to turn back to come to Nigeria, you can also use that time to go to that event and represent Nigeria accordingly. And this is not the first time Shettima is doing that. In May this year, he aborted a trip halfway. He aborted it midway. It was to represent the president at the US Africa Business Summit in Dallas, Texas. US Africa Business Summit in Dallas, Texas. In May, if you remember, Shettima did what? He aborted the trip. So one thing I realized about Shettima be say, they like to stress himself. If the matter one day too much for in life, he go just gently, exclude himself. So, but the thing is, what is he teaching us? He will tell us to be committed, and you expect soldiers to die for the country when you are even living a life of luxury. You don't want to sacrifice anything, any inconvenience. Kudos to Professor Yemi Osinbajo. In this regard, I will rate him better than the current vice president. It's been an interesting time, but well, we thank God he's alive anyway. That's the most important thing. It's been an interesting time with you on this episode with Politic with Dr. Omoshola Deji. Dr. Deji is a political scientist with a PhD in political science. This is where we relax, where we talk about politics and happenings in the polity. So if you are watching me for the first time or you are a returning viewer and you are yet to subscribe, do what to subscribe, do what to turn on your notification button, and do what to catch up with my past videos. And of course, I have great videos coming up for you. Till I see you again, I'm just around the corner. I love you all, sincerely.